Okay, good morning, everybody. We're going to give it a couple seconds for people to start coming in. I don't want to say too much because I'll be repeating myself as soon as people start coming in. Welcome to another episode of Coffee with the Critters here on the Yay! Let me see that mug again.
Tea with the Critters.
Tea with the Critters.
This is from one of my clients. I love this cup.
Okay, people are starting to come in. Good morning, Tamara. Good morning, Sean. Yeah, we expect this episode to be fairly big. Good morning, Lydia, Tim, all of our regulars in here so far. Yeah, I shared this broadcast with several different groups. Good morning, Steve. I shared it with several different groups because the topic of today is vast and can be applied in several different areas. Good morning, Patricia, who was just here yesterday. Patricia Sund was here doing CHOP over the past couple days. Good morning, Jennifer, Pam, Brianna, Haley, Chris, several members of the Animal Behavior Center are in here. In the different projects. I want to give it a couple more seconds. So hopefully, good morning, Mary. Everybody is doing well over the holidays with the animals in their care. I know I have several podcasts out there talking about how much untraining can happen when your family members come to you. And believe me, I have. And I try to always say, don't do that. Please don't untrain my dog. Good morning, everybody. So let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to another episode of Coffee with the Critters, where we go live every Sunday morning at 9 o'clock Eastern with a live stream broadcast, training and talking about different applications in applied behavior analysis and how it works with animals. Good morning, Ray. My name is Lara Joseph, owner of the Animal Behavior Center. We are an international educational center teaching people all over the place about using applied behavior analysis and positive reinforcement with the animals in their care. And we do that through our live streams. You can find out more about those services that we offer on our webpage, which is theanimalbehaviorcenter.com. But today I want to introduce my good friend and fellow trainer, Vicki Ronchette. Vicki, where are you located in California?
Northern California in San Leandro, very close to Oakland.
Okay.
Next door to Oakland, actually.
Yeah, I know where that's at. So I want to go ahead and introduce Vicki. I don't like reading off of paper, but she has a couple of key points that I definitely don't want to miss. So Vicki is a certified professional dog trainer, CAP2. What does that stand for, Vicki?
That's the Clicker Competency Assessment Program. It's Kay Lawrence's program out of the UK, and it's basically a clicker training competency test. So you're tested not on what your animal knows or the skills of your animal, but your skill as a trainer. So they actually give you behaviors to train right in front of them, and you need to show how you do that.
Awesome. So do you do that with your own animals, or do they provide the animals?
No, you bring your own animal. You bring one animal. And I did the level 1 and level 2. It was a pretty intense test, but very cool. I mean, it's really geared towards testing someone's mechanical skills. Instead of so many other things that are about testing the animal, it's about testing the trainer.
Yes, I love that. So Vicki has been working professionally with animals since 1985 as a vet assistant, groomer, and trainer. And she has 3 different books that she is the author of and published, and I want to put those up here in a second. She's owner of Brave Heart Dog Training in San Leandro, which specializes in show dog training. So I want to talk about, first of all, the 3 different books that you have out. Which one do you want to start with, Vicki? Because I know one of them your latest one, well, probably all of them are very applicable to what we're talking about today.
Yeah, so Positive Training for Show Dogs was published by Dogwise in 2007, and they wanted to, I approached them and they wanted to publish a book about, positive training done for show dogs, which there just wasn't anything out. There was books about how dog shows work and books made by, published by handlers, pretty old, nothing super new.
So old, what do you mean? How old?
Published old, older, like time wise, but also, and some of them are, I have them all, and some are more old school traditional methods, but a lot of them, understand a lot of those old time handlers. Some of them, they did understand like how important it was for the dog to like it and how they used food and they used reinforcers and stuff like that. But that was sort of it. It was more about how to present a dog, not so much how to train a dog. And those are such separate things because, you can be really great at presentation or really fabulous at the grooming, but sometimes people will get dogs that just aren't falling into what they're used to, and the traditional methods don't work with them. So that first book was just all about using positive training methods to train show dogs, how I do it, and just a different approach to it. And then 2 years ago, I published From Shy to Showy because I worked with so many show dogs that are fearful. And that happens a lot where people either, are grading their litter of puppies, they pick the puppy that, is the flashiest or the prettiest or the most structurally correct, but sometimes that temperament is not showy. Dog doesn't want to be conspicuous and go in there and be touched by strangers and looked at and be out every weekend doing that. So that book and webinar series and workshop has been really popular because people need that. And then the latest book is Ready, Set, Show. Who Anna Bettina, was yelling at me because you need to just do a book all about how it works. So I was like, okay. So I did that one. And that one really is like the classes, what class to enter. It's more about the how dog shows work, how the process of elimination and picking the winners work, what classes to enter, what to wear. There's a little bit about training, but it's mostly about this whole culture and how this whole sport works.
So tell me about are you hearing any audio feedback?
I just didn't catch part of that, but it's going in and out.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about the world of showing dogs and what the difference is with like conformation. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So conformation or the bench, sometimes it's called the bench or dog shows. It's very, very traditional. Everything is passed down from mentors, and the mentors in the breeds are breeders. So it's, traditionally somebody gets a show puppy, and if they're new to showing, then the person who they got their dog from, their breeder, is usually their mentor. And then that person basically teaches them everything they know. So a lot of what they're getting is coming from someone just who's very knowledgeable in the breed. And then they're teaching them all about, what to feed the dog and how to train the dog and everything about that puppy. And so everything is sort of passed down in that way. So there's a lot of tradition. There's a lot of old school. There's a lot of, nope, this is how we do it. This is the collar you have to use for this breed. This is what we do. And if you go in the ring and you're not wearing that collar, or you do something people don't like, you will get bum rushed. And they will run up to people who they don't recognize and say, nope, you're not doing that right. Let me just show you. And literally just like start trying to work your dog. I mean, it can be that intense. So it's what's that?
It sounds kind of stressful.
Oh, it's very stressful. One of the first things I have to teach all my people is like one of the first things they have to learn is to be able to politely say, thank you and do their own thing, or they are able to just ignore it, because when you're in the ring and people are dealing with performance anxiety and they're worried, you know, they can't have someone yelling at them when we have a training plan in place and they have a protocol in place, and then somebody is like, no, do this, hold your collar like this, do this, go faster, go slower. So and positive reinforcement has crept in a lot to obedience and agility and, you know, all these other, you know, dog sports, but it's been very slow, I think, to come into confirmation.
Yeah. And I want to back up just a second, because you said it can be very stressful on you as the handler. And if you're that stressed, isn't the dog picking up on that stress?
Absolutely. And the thing with confirmation is that it's one of the only sports where you literally have professionals competing side by side with amateurs. So you have all of these owner handlers like me who, you know, I have my own dogs. I show my own dogs. This is what I want to do with my dogs. So it's not just about, I got to get them done. I got to put them out with a handler and get their championships. Like, this is what I like to do on the weekends with them. You know, I go to the dog show and I'm with all my friends and we all go root each other on. But that professional handlers, this is what they do for a living. Many of them have been doing this since they were children. They started out as junior handlers. They went through, you know what I mean? They've been doing this forever. This is what they do. So to compete against them can be challenging.
Yeah. So based on you saying that, I mean, I know I entered the world of working with animals through applied behavior analysis with birds. And I didn't want it to limit to just birds. So that's why we created the Animal Behavior Center. The majority of the work we do here is, I mean, it's just working with and this is what it actually comes down to, is teaching people about applied behavior analysis through animals. And I know how, when I first started in the bird world, it was a lot of aversives. But I want to say the bird world was one of the first areas that I saw really start changing with people learning about applied behavior analysis with animals. And that's why I like to work with different zoos and exotic animals, because, I mean, the message is clear. It is in your face. Like, yeah, you can use aversives with animals to get the animals to do what you want to do, but try that with a primate. Try that with a turkey vulture. Try that with a prey animal. I mean, it's so clear that one of the main side effects of using aversives to control behavior is increased aggression. And with exotics and prey, bam, it's in your face. That's why I like working with them, because the message is very clear. So my point in saying this is then seeing it slowly creep into the dog world. I know Kim Wendy is on here. She's a professional horse trainer out of Texas. And her and I have discussed several different times I mean, it's hard for me to go through my photo library and look for, when I'm giving a presentation, look for samples where I have taken pictures of using aversives to control behavior that show the side effects on the body language of the animal. I can't find it because I try my hardest to stay away from it. But one of the places, I was talking to Kim about this, all you have to do is go horse training. You will see all kinds of aversives. So there is an area, and Kim, feel free to make a comment. There's an area where I see it really taking a long time to get that message crossed through to the handler. So you're saying you see, I mean, what do you have to say about that, Vicki?
The thing is that in the show world, there's a huge reinforcement history for those people. They've been doing this and they've been winning successfully, sometimes for 20, 30, 40 years.
So it works for them.
It works. And not only that, it works with a high rate of reinforcement if they're winning best in shows and they're winning. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so, you know, how do I say, you know, don't do that? You know, how do I say that, you know, there's a way to do it where it could be better? And it really is, in a way, too, I'll say, somewhat breed specific. Like, you're just not going to see people in the Cavalier ring being as heavy-handed as you'll see them be, in, some, let's say, a working breed ring, where it's like, no, this is a such and such, he should be able to take it. I mean, they can be really hard on some of those dogs. And it's not only the training, it's the lifestyle. I mean, some of these dogs, Laura, they're on the road for months. They go out with a professional handler, and they might be at the handler's place during the week, but they're still being worked with and getting groomed, and then they're on the road. I mean, and sometimes it's in an RV or a truck, and they're driving a lot of hours, and then they're in pens, and their exercise is usually being biked around the showgrounds. I mean, it's a whole lifestyle that is super deeply ingrained in a lot of these people. And, some dogs manage to get by fine. Some dogs, I think, really thrive on it. And for some, it's really hard on them. There's all of these different, areas where you have, like me, I'm an owner handler. I show my own dogs. I show dogs here and there for friends. I teach people. That's what I like to do. But there are a lot of people who are in the business of backing dogs. So their dogs are sent out with handlers. Some of them might not even know the dogs. They're financially backing the dogs. To campaign a dog is very, very expensive. Like can be $100,000 a year. You know what I mean? Like ads and showing and handlers and all this stuff. So you have all these different factions where you have the owner handler, you have, highly campaigned, super competitive dogs out with professional handlers that can be out for 2 years, and then, so there's all these different things. And, some dogs do quite well, but for some dogs, it's hard on them. So it really, and of course it depends on the handler and how good a handler is and how they, their assistants and how good the dogs are, exercised and taken care of. And again, some of it does depend on the breed and the individual.
I want to bring up a couple of comments, but before I do that, do you let anybody else handle your dogs?
No. Yeah, I handle my own dogs, but like last year I was trying to finish a grand championship on a friend's dog. So I kind of, put my dog on the back burner, both of my dogs, and I did let good friends show them a few times. But these were friends. These are people I trust. They're not professionals. There are some professionals that I would trust, but these were just for a few shows. And I just said, can you show cannoli or can you show Opie? You know what I mean? It was that kind of thing. But for the most part, I do the training, I do the grooming, I do the showing. Like, this is my sport. So I want to be doing it.
Yeah.
But for people who, like, I don't even want to show the sporting breeds or some of the breeds. Like, I won't show a shepherd for somebody anymore. I don't want to run. I don't want to run. It's really like they make it look so easy. And when you can run really easily and show those fast sporting dogs like the pointers and goldens and stuff, it's not easy. I don't want to do it. I want to show my little dogs I can walk around with.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, I was approached one time about somebody wanting to handle some of my animals. And I was like, oh, no, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And it's very stressful for me. When I see an animal stressed, I get very stressed.
Right.
So I want to comment. This is the cool thing about this program is I can bring up some of the comments that people are saying like this. Ruth, I know Ruth, I believe she's in the Pig Project. She was saying using, force and aversives is really big in the pig world. And Vicki, you and I were talking about this last night.
Yeah.
It is huge in the pig world. And I mean, I would never want to use it on any animal, but when I entered the pig world and saw what was going on with all these different pigs, it's a lot of
I remember that. I remember talking about that years ago with you.
Yeah. And it's like, the number one behavior issue with pigs is aggression.
Right.
And, most of the people don't see the fear fact, the fear antecedents that lead up to that. Pay attention to the body language. It is there.
Yeah.
one of the things we tell people here, don't go up and, I mean, we try not to say don't, but we tell them the consequences of what will happen if they go up and pet the pig, because pigs are prey animal. Their eyes are on the side of their head. A lot of people, and you probably see this with the dog world, they want to pet and go over the head. The animal can't see where number one, they're not familiar with who you are. You haven't introduced yourself.
Right.
And then you've got this hand going over the head, and the pig can only lift their head so far, and they're trying to see, what are you doing with your hand? They can't see, so they're starting to back up. Now you've got this person continuing to tower over them and move forward. And that's, I mean, we when people come to the center, first thing we do is supply with information. If we can, before they even walk in, because as soon as your hand hits that doorknob, you are training every animal on the other side of that door, whether you realize it or not.
Right.
So we just tell them, we ask them, put your hand down, and let Milo smell you. And then I will stand there and read Milo's body language, and then I'll let them know when it's okay to move in, because otherwise you're training my pig,
Right.
We're training my pig for that first lunge. And once that lunge happens and that person backs up, the pig is that intelligent and manipulative to know, just with one experience, boom, that's what works.
And the thing with dogs is that, obviously I love dogs, and they're, the most honest, species. I mean, they're so forgiving that people can get away with a lot. They can get away with a lot of dogs. Now, I've met some dogs that just absolutely they won't tolerate it. And we can work with them and, see if we can get them to be show dogs. But show dogs need to be touched by a stranger, invasively every weekend sometimes, Like my dogs, even when I'm showing actively, it's usually only, in the real heavy season, 2-3 weekends a month. But it's still a lot, and if you have a dog who's not comfortable with that, or isn't comfortable with a piece of that, any piece of that, this, if there's any one piece of the show environment or experience they don't like, it can poison the whole thing. So if they don't like the judge's exam, they're not going to like dog shows. If they don't like their dogs, they're not going to like dog shows.
Have you worked with any dog that you've shown and one experience from somebody that doesn't know what they're doing causes you to not be able to show that dog?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've had dogs that had a bad experience with an instructor. So the owner couldn't show the dog anymore. It only takes one time for the instructor to grab the dog out of the person's hands and pretend to drop it off the back of the table. That's a very popular method in the show world for getting dogs not to move on the table. They hold the dog and they drop it off the back of the table so that it holds on for dear life and doesn't move up there.
Oh, for Pete's sake.
Isn't that gross?
Yeah.
So you'll have people do that, and then then the next thing you know, the dog is all looking all crazy on the table, and that's not pretty. That's not going to win if he's all roached back and holding on because he had this scary experience. So I just saw Judith came on. Hi, Judith. That's one of my she's come to some of my workshops. She's we should talk about Judith. Could I just tell you this one thing? I don't know if you saw that post I made on Facebook the other day, but it was about like just doing it. If you want to do positive reinforcement, forget about people saying you can't do it. You just do it, because Judith has Cane Corsos, and Cane Corsos are a big, working, tough, don't mess around with them breed, and she's doing KPA with a Corso, which is so cool. So I'm trying to really support that, because it is different in some animals, in some breeds.
Yeah. So Judith working with that breed of dog, that's a statement right there.
It's huge for me, because that is one of the breeds where it's like, no, if you've got a Corso, you better have a pinch collar on him or an e-collar on him. And it's not that the people are bad. It's that the dogs are challenging. Nobody wants to not be nice to their dogs. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Or some people maybe do, but I mean, it really isn't about that. It's about, these are strong, powerful dogs. People are trying to have control. sometimes it's a matter of control, where it's literally like, if he wants to go, you can't stop him. So for someone like Judith to just be like, no, I'm going to stick to my guns on this, and I'm going to do it with, I'm going to do this method with this breed, and she's just going to do it. That's the only way to change people's mind, is to just do it and be effective at it. You know what I mean? Because we could tell them all day long, but they're still going to say, not with a Corso, or, not with a Doberman, or not with a cockatoo, whatever they want to say, you can't do it with. So it's really about getting out there and just in the trenches and doing it, I think, sometimes.
Absolutely. If I did a lot of things that people told me not to do, the Animal Behavior Center would not be here.
Right.
That was a huge jump for me. Everybody was I was getting advice, just stick to your guns, just, stay in your little safe area. And I was like, well, I'm not happy in my safe area, because what kind of education, is there?
Yeah.
We can do so much more with this. So you're right. I mean, just do it.
Just do it. I mean, just like, that's what I was, the whole message. And I was thinking a little bit about Judith when I made that post, but I'm also just thinking about it like, there's so much, like, people just want to say it can't be done. There was a time when papers were written saying giraffes couldn't be trained. Like, they can't learn. So we just have to do it, and it's not always easy. And sometimes I was saying, in that same post thread, that sometimes I feel like getting another big working dog so I can be like, look, yes, it can be done. But I mean, I did that with my cattle dog, and people don't care that until for some reason they need to do something differently. People are, I think, just going to do what works and what they're comfortable with, and however we learn to do it first is how we know how to do it, and what lives with us and is really strong. And it's a lot of work to learn a different way.
Sure. It's not easy.
No, but I have to tell you that it's really cool. Like, the first From Shy to Showy workshop I taught, it was in my little space in San Leandro that I don't have anymore, but it was like 800 square feet. And I think there was 8 dogs. There was an Irish wolfhound, and the breeder has been in the breed for over 40 years. Like, she's sort of the queen of the breed. And then there was somebody who had Pharaoh hounds for 20 years, and somebody who had Danes for 30 years. And I thought, oh my God, here's these people who are experts in their breed. I have nothing to teach them about that breed, but they're coming to little old me and saying, I don't know what to do with this dog. Like, this is different than I know what to do with, and to just be able to be like, cool, let me show you something new, and for them to be open-minded enough, like, that keeps me going. Like, that Irish wolfhound is, I think she still is the #1 dog in the country. And she was a dog that she didn't want people to touch her. And it was just about learning a little bit more about body language, learning a little bit more about thresholds and where to stop, and sort of, you know what I mean? Letting the dog have more choice. And thankfully the owner was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I'll try that. And then, then the dog just blossomed. And, you're not going to take a wolfhound and make it do something it doesn't want to do. You know what I mean? Like, you can a little tiny dog. Yes. So that's great. It's the people that are like willing to hear something new and want to learn something new. And,
So
go ahead.
That's what's key about several of us that are educators, like you, myself, and several people that are on here. I see Daphne on here as well.
Oh, hi,
Daphne. That's what's key. We may not reach everybody, but let's reach the ones that are willing to learn. Like what I always say, when you know better, you do better.
Yes.
Yeah. And one of the things I want to back up, something you had said about the giraffe. So I was training this giraffe that at the zoo, and they didn't necessarily understand my approach and what I was trying to do. So I needed to get to the key people at the zoo to make the difference. So I trained this giraffe to, I was like, how am I going to get to the people that make a difference? So I did a lot of training behind the scenes with the giraffe to train it to pick up its hoof voluntarily, hoof trim, jugular blood draw, back up on cue, touch its rear to a target. And then, so I trained all this stuff behind the scenes. And when they were just for people visiting the zoo to see that, they would see it. And I would tell them, watch the people flock to the training, because they're wanting to know, how did you do this? And if I can teach this to a giraffe, you can do this at home with your dog, with your spouse, with your family,
Exactly.
It works across the board. So that's what I did, is I trained this giraffe to want to do everything I was asking. And I waited until they were bringing a group of people by, and I started training the giraffe, and it started offering the hoof trim. And the people that I was trying to get to, I found their reinforcer, and that's exactly what I was doing. And they came up and were like, how did you do that? And I was like, what? Oh, train that hoof trim? Got it. So I got the reinforcer. I got the behavior I was looking for.
That's awesome.
I think.
Don't you know giraffe can't be trained?
Yeah.
There was a paper on that, I think.
There?
I think so. Yeah, the time when people said they couldn't be trained, they were just too stupid.
Oh, man, they're not. They're so observant and they're quick.
That's why it's just like we have to just keep questioning and doing and doing. I mean, that's the answer, right? Is just you did it.
Yeah.
It wasn't any convincing. You just did it and then let them see it.
Yeah. There's the proof.
Yeah.
There's the proof.
And some will come back and say, oh, well, you just got lucky. That was just that one. I bet you can't do it with so-and-so. You know what I mean? So then you're like, okay, let me have so-and-so. I'll do him too,
Yeah. Yeah. But I think a lot of how we interact with the animals, like I know when my dogs were puppies, I was like, okay, let's go do something fun. So I took an agility class. I guess, this would be your area of forte, but choose wisely. Because when I was just like, I'm watching, I was just like, where's the positive reinforcement in this? In some of the particular ones I was looking at, I was seeing people getting frustrated with their dogs and pulling them by the collars and forcing them in a sit position to force them to listen to them. And I was like, oh, your dog, you could have so much more fun, and your dog could do so much better if you use positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
I stayed for a couple weeks and then I left.
Yeah. It's hard to see. I have had a hard time at shows over the years, and I have to really, my close friends and my friends who are there with me all the time, they know that there's times when I've, really gotten upset. I've seen really not nice things, and most of the time I walk away. I think it was last year I couldn't, because in the middle of a dog show, a woman took a young puppy and tried to get him to be stacked into a show position. And he didn't know what she wanted. He was a little puppy. He was like 4 months old, if that. And she grabbed him and she bit him in the face, and then she threw him on the ground. And I was like, oh my God, should I go say something? And the people I was said, I think you have to. And I just went over there and said, I'm a professional trainer. Can I help you? And she was just like, basically, get out of here. I'm working my dog. And I just told her, it's just too painful for us to watch. Please don't do it here. And, I was in tears. It was really hard to see and to be helpless. I can't do anything. It's not my dog. I can't just take him. And thankfully, I think the owners were standing there and they saw, but they were also helpless. They didn't know, because when you think someone's a professional, then you give them liberty to do what they want because you think that they know better, Right. So yeah, it's hard sometimes, but I really now just have to force myself to look for the things that I really like, and look for, dogs who I think look like they're having a great time and are happy. And you
can see that. It's so, yes. Back to what you had just said, doing things or letting things happen to your animal because that's the professional. They know what they're doing. What do I know? I want to say, if you ever see anybody handling your animal that you question it. Do your research, ask. I know, like I had said, when I got started, it was through the bird world. What's one of the most common forms of behavior, or used to, hopefully it's past tense, what was the most common form of behavior modification within the citizens, within the parrot world? It was clip the wings. And I did it because I thought that's what needed to be done.
Yeah.
And that was the advice I was given by professionals: clip the wings to control the behavior. And this sounds kind of harsh, but this is what hit home for me. When I heard somebody say, you're not going to break your dog's legs to keep it from running out the front door or going into the formal family room, you train it, right? So why clip the bird's wings?
Yeah.
And that was the moment when I read that. I was like, wow, that is so true. Why don't I just train the behavior? So since then, I have never clipped wings. Focus on the behavior.
Right.
Because you and I know, you can use different forms of behavior modification to try to control behavior. But if you're not changing the behavior, oftentimes that behavior issue will just shift for the animal to find another way to get what it wants, or the behavior issue just skyrockets out of control. Then the animal's put down because there's something wrong with the animal.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. That's the thing with dogs a lot. It's like, they can't take it. It used to be that if somebody said, well, I wanted to do obedience with this dog, and then I couldn't do obedience with, compete in obedience because she was too soft. What that meant was she couldn't take the correction. The dog couldn't take the training you were doing. When all of these dogs aren't washed out animals, it's just the way that they're doing the training isn't effective. And you got, when really bad training works for a long time, people think it's really good training. But it's just that you just barely got by for whatever reason with those individuals who somehow managed to get it, even though, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, people would never dream of going to an agility trial or an obedience trial with their dog without training it. Lara, they do that at dog shows all the time. They show up with a puppy who has no training and will take it in the ring and expect it to perform. That's just walking in a circle and standing there. And it's like, but he deserves to know what you expect of him in a high stressful situation where you have performance anxiety. You know what I mean? And sometimes these people are bringing their dogs and giving it to someone else to show. So you're going to hand the dog off to someone that doesn't know, and then he's supposed to know how to do it. It's just, it makes me crazy. But people call me all the time and they'll be like, yeah, I have this puppy and, the breeder's going to show him. He's entered in 2 weeks. Can you help me? All the time. It's like, can I get him show ready in 2 weeks? Well, I can teach him some things, but is he going to be ready to go in there and be competitive and really know exactly what you want? Well, we might need a few more weeks than that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And people usually want that behavior and they want it now.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the things within the field of working with animals using positive reinforcement and applied behavior analysis, one of the things that just kind of makes me tick, is people say, wow, you must have so much patience. And I'm like, no. I mean, it's more about reading the body language and, do you not want this relationship with the animal? Do you know how strong this can be?
Not only that, it's also recognizing small changes or huge changes, and then it is reinforcing to you. It's not like you're just sitting around for 4 days and nothing is happening. It's like when you're working with, Murray to step up on that stick. It's like, no, he actually moved towards it. That was a big thing. He actually put his foot. That was a big thing. All these pieces are big things. You know what I mean? Where they're viewing it as you're waiting all these days for it to happen. It's like, no, I'm there with him while it's happening.
Right.
It's the process of it happening.
And I think I mean, one of the things through teaching people that I've found, and I'm going to be sure that you agree because you just stated it, which was what's making me talk about it, is one of the biggest mistakes I think I see people make that really want to learn is they're taking too big of steps. They're not shaping behaviors.
Yes.
Or, well, they might be, but not the ones you want. But when you tell them, this is what I'm looking for, just that slight body lane bridge reinforce.
Right.
And, oh, that's small. I've been taking way too big of steps. And that's usually how I get through. What's reinforcing for me beyond many things, such as relationship with the animal, is you seeing it, the animal starting to understand, oh, you want some more of this? I can give you some more of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have a photo I was trying to post this morning, but I couldn't, and I will after this. But because you know the work that I'm doing with Murray, the green-winged macaw, how long has that training been going on? A month and a half to get him to step up onto a mobile perch because there's a relationship broken between him and I. I did it. I ruined it. And I realized it when it was happening. So I'm teaching him to step up onto a mobile perch because that's how I can safely move him, safely for himself and safely for myself right now, to get him out of his enclosure. And he's wanting to do it. And last night, I mean, you know how huge our enclosures are. I was reaching up above. He was asking me, he invited me to pet him, and I saw it. So that was one of our first physical contacts last night. And I was rubbing his head and was even able to rub around here. And I rubbed his facial patches. So that monstrous beak is right here. And what's it doing? It's staying closed, you know, while he's inviting me in through his body language for that tactile enrichment, which to me, that's why I do this.
It's everything.
Yeah.
You know, that's everything. People just, you know, and going back to what you saw in the agility, you know, it's like a lot of it is people's expectations. You know, they get a show dog and it's like, no, I'm going to show her. Okay. It would be inhumane to take this dog to a dog show and let a stranger touch her every weekend. Well, I got her to show her. I promised the breeder I would finish her. You know, it's like, or people want a bird and it's like, well, you know, my cousin's bird is so nice. I want to be able to hold mine like that right now. You know, and it's like, it just isn't, you know, it's an individual, you know, it's like you have to work through the process of, you know, the one that you're working with.
Yeah. And it comes to I mean, honestly, you can probably answer this for me is, what are you in it for? What are you for? If there's a lot of manhandling, or just maybe people just uneducated, they don't know better, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, and that's why I think I think that's the primary reason why you and I are in this, is because you're in it when you told me this, when you were standing here at the center giving a presentation. It's teamwork. It's not just me. It's me and that animal working together.
Yep.
And you can see that. It is so obvious when you see a dog like, let's go. I'm ready. I'm excited. We're doing this.
Exactly.
So Kim asked a question. Here's the horse trainer down in Texas I was telling you about. Vicki, do you see a lot of show dogs develop aggression or aggressive behaviors?
Well, yeah, you see a lot of show dogs that just aren't there anymore. You know, it's like what happens is they develop some issues, and either, you know, if they come to me with that, what I tell them is, you have to pull them. This dog cannot be shown until we address this. And so fear or aggression, and aggression is usually, you know, happens because of a fear response. I always tell people that until the dog is there emotionally, until you have him emotionally, his emotional state is okay, he cannot be shown. You know, you can't, because all training is going to be trumped by emotional state. So if he knows how to do everything really great at home, but he is going to fall apart at the dog show. He's not ready. You know, we have to get all of the pieces. So if people get a dog that's having some issues, so usually the first sign would be like, you know, the dog leans away or he's not comfortable, let's say with the exam. Then they have a choice of how they're going to handle it. And if they want to push him and not listen to his signals, then you have a really good chance of pushing him to have to bite. If he is giving you the body language to indicate he's uncomfortable and you ignore it, you've left him with no choice.
Yep.
It might escalate. So you have dogs on the spectrum who are just going to shut down and get quiet, and they're not going to bite. They just don't do that. You know, those are the ones I feel the most sorry for, because those are the ones that are at the dog show looking horrible, not having fun. Nobody's listening to them. If they're, you know, with a handler who's really good, they'll probably muddle through a championship, but they won't have much of a chance at a career beyond that because they don't like it. You can't say, I'm going to hurt you into enjoying something. You know what I mean? It just doesn't work that way. So you've got those dogs. But if you've got ones who just say, you're not going to do that to me, and if you don't listen to me, I'm going to bite someone, or I'm going to rear up, or I'm going to panic, then you have to pull them. So when I get those dogs, it's like the first thing I do is like, let's pull them. Let's not show them. And the great clients say, okay, whatever you think. And then we work on them, you know, and then we get them back in there to when we think that they're ready. Or maybe we might enter them just to get a baseline and see where they're at. But yeah, there are some where they end up being washed out because it's just not handled right. And everybody's deal, I would say most people who handle show dogs, if they get some sort of aggression or was just starting out as fear, like the dog's leaning away or the dog, they'll say, you know, oh, she's just a bitch, or, you know, she's just an idiot. And, you know, oh, she's not scared. She just doesn't like it. She's just being a jerk. She just doesn't want me to do it. It's like, I don't care why you think she's not doing it. The fact is she doesn't like it. So let's just teach her to enjoy it. I mean, that's the whole process. I don't want a dog to show and just tolerate it. And if you punish them into stopping that behavior, then that's what you're getting, right? You're getting a dog who's holding it together and tolerating it. But if it's really fearful, I mean, at some point, that's going to blow.
Yeah.
You know, at some point, if you keep forcing it, they're not going to have a choice. I met with a client one time, and she had a giant breed dog. So there's a potential for it to be dangerous, right? And she had it at an hour-long handling class. And at the end of the class, somebody wanted to go over the dog or look at his bite. So they come up to go over the dog, and he leaned away. And the instructor said, don't let him get away with that. He has to do this. This was like, you know, a 1.5-year-old dog. So a young dog who just done an hour-long class. He was tired. So they did it again. The second time he sat down. Nope, he's going to do it. Make him do it again. The third time he growled, and the fourth time he snapped. And then they said, oh my God, what's up with his temperament? His temperament is fabulous. He told you 3 times to stop. You ignored him every time. He's 130 pounds. You know what I mean? At some point, he just said enough. And what was really sad was that when I started to talk to the owner about relationship rebuilding, she fell apart because it was like, you know, she realized when we had this discussion that it's like that had really damaged the relationship by not standing up for him and just allowing people to push him and push him and push him. You know what I mean? When if she would have just said, you know what, he's really tired, he needs a break. A lot of people won't do that because someone else will say, no, he needs to deal with it.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, imagine living your life in a world of learning through negative reinforcement.
Right.
You know?
And just like, too bad, too bad, too bad, too bad. I mean, I know for me personally, I didn't have parents like that. And if I had, it would have crushed me. I mean, I just can't operate that way. You know, I'm far too sensitive, you know, and some of the dogs are too. And, you know, they need to be heard, and they need to have somebody advocating for them, you know?
And living in a world based on negative reinforcement meaning do it or else, giving behaviors to escape, avoid consequences. I don't know all of the physical as far as major stress, what that can do to the animal medically and physically. I know I just wrote a newsletter talking about Jacques Panskep about the emotions in animals. Yeah. If you have not read that, read it, and or just follow his work. Unfortunately, he just recently passed, but what an amazing man, talking about the emotional well-being of animals.
Right. And, there's so much research being done, where, we thought things had to do with, coming from the brain, but a lot of things come from the gut, of the animal, like the stomach and what they're eating and things like that. And with the show dogs, there are show dogs who don't eat. If a dog is not eating because he's so stressed out, he's out of balance. That is, and to live like that is, in my opinion, extremely dangerous. To live in a constant state of high anxiety. And people don't understand like what that can do to an animal long term. It can cause health problems. It can cause immune problems. You know what I mean? Some of these dogs don't eat. They're force fed because they're just stressed out. And I'm not saying that, I'm deep in the show world. This is what I love. And there are a lot of dogs who love this. And there are a lot of handlers are fantastic. And dogs that you go there and, this is what they do. And it's great and it's fun. So it's not like the majority of dogs hate it at all. I think the majority of them like it. And the majority of them do this. And it's a fun activity and that kind of thing. But there are some, and it's really just a matter of getting more people on board, with not just wanting to finish a dog and not care. Like, those aren't my clients. Like, if what you're interested in is just finishing the dog and you don't care about anything else, you're not my client, because that's not what I do. I'm about making it better for the animal. I want you to have success. But to me, if it works for the animal and the person. It doesn't just get behavior to quit it when you don't like it. It's like really making them, be okay with it. I want them to be okay with it. I want them to enjoy it. Or I don't think they should be asked to do it all the time.
Yeah.
And some of them aren't just going to become an agility dog or your next big obedience dog. And I've been there where you got a dog and you're like, I'm going to do all this stuff with them. Hi, Christine.
I saw Christine just join. Christine.
You're going to do all this stuff with them. But what if that dog's like, I don't like agility. I don't like to be stared at by 800 border collies while I'm running around. You know what I mean? It's like there's dogs that just won't cut it. And I don't think it's humane to insist.
Another, I think this fits in, the good place to fit in is another label that when I hear it, is an opportunity to educate, is when people tell me the animal's unpredictable. And I'm like, okay, if that animal's unpredictable, there's different things you can do. If it's unpredictable, if you're not sure what it's getting ready to do, it's because it's not sure what you're getting ready to do.
Yes.
And it's probably based on a history of intermittent schedules of reinforcement. One person may do something some way, but here comes the other one that may that puts that unpredictability on cue, which can make for a very dangerous animal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a paper I had written about putting predictability on cue. Unpredictable. And another thing is when people like, I'm not sure, I want to ask the animal to do this, but I'm nervous. I'm like, if you're nervous, there's a reason you're nervous. Back up to a state where you begin, where you're calm. Start reinforcing calm in yourself and reinforce calm in the animal.
Yeah.
If you're nervous, you're not sure what that animal's getting ready to do. And if you're not sure what that animal's getting ready to do, it's because it's not sure what you're getting ready to do. So there's more learning and communicating that the two of you need to do.
Right. One thing that's really interesting to me about the bird world, and I had to get off most of the bird lists and stuff, is because people will just, even though they know with a high, probability that animal's going to bite, they will still let it out, and they will still take the animal out of the cage and then let's work on this. And it's like, you were the person who told me, if you don't feel for sure you're not going to be bitten, you take him out. You work with him in the cage. And it just amazes me. It's like people are bitten on a regular basis, and they still don't want to stop and take the time to, like, let's, do some work so I can get to know this animal when we're both safe. It's so relationship damaging to be bitten by your animal.
Yeah.
And it hurts your feelings, and it's just not a good thing. And so that stresses me out. I don't understand that,
Well, that's usually the place where people give up.
Yeah.
They say, I can't do this. This is not doable.
Yeah, if I can't hold him and do what I want to do to him all the time, then I'm out.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I love about the live streaming training. You and I were talking about this last night. I don't want to make myself seen in the animal world as perfect and that I don't make mistakes, because I make them every damn day. They may be minor, but I make sure, like, I can tell I've made a mistake by reading the animal's body language. Whoops.
But don't you think sometimes it's not even a mistake? Sometimes it's just like, I thought it was going to go this way and it didn't go this way. So the training's not going to be exciting because we're not going to work on this. We have to go back to working on just this. Mm-hmm. And it's not going to look as sexy or exciting because it's just, it's just stationing again. But it's like, that's part of it. It's not necessarily that anybody did anything wrong. It's just the animal told me where we were going to be starting today. And we're starting here, even though I was hoping we might be here today. We're actually here.
Yeah. I just posted something on our Facebook page the other day. It was a quote from Skinner, and I can't remember exactly what it is. Something about, if we make a mistake, it's not necessarily wrong. What's wrong is when we don't learn from it.
Yeah.
Or we stop and we don't continue trying to figure out what that was.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, Juliet says she missed out on this, but that's the beauty of this, Juliet, is you can watch the replay. And Vicki, once this is over, like, we've got another 3 minutes. Once this is over, I invite you to rewatch the replay, because that's where a lot of the engagement happens. And answer their question. I mean, go through and answer them, direct them, give suggestions, whatever you want. I usually do too. We've got something getting ready to happen in the center in about an hour. So I won't be able to do it till later on, but yeah. Is there anything else you wanted to say before we wrap it up, Vicki?
Well, I love you. I miss you, and I want to come back to the center. And I do think we need to do just a big get together where, a bunch of us trainer girlfriends get together and do a weekend. But, I just encourage people to keep looking for new ways and better ways. And if there's a better way and a more humane way and a way that makes it better for the animals, then I think we owe it to them to do that or to try that. You can always go back to what's safe for you. It's, if you're going to do no harm by trying something that's different, then I think people should do that.
And if you have questions, ask.
Yeah.
You're not sure, ask. I have questions, and I'm just like, not really sure what my next steps should be. And that's a lot of times where I'll contact the Behavior Geeks group. What am I doing? I need to think outside the box here, and I'm having a hard time doing it. Yeah,
me too.
But Vicki, let's definitely get together sometime soon. I know Christine's on here. We had a blast a couple of years ago. Let's have another blast.
For sure. This was fun. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. And I'm going to put up Vicki's website. This is how people can contact you. braveheartdogtraining.com. Anything else? I mean, do you have, if I can type fast enough, do you have an email address where people can reach you?
Sure. It's braveheartdogs@gmail.com.
Typing it in at gmail.com. I'm going to show it. Is that it? Wait, hang on. I didn't put it up yet.
Yep, that's it.
There you go. So if you guys want to reach Vicki Ronchette, you can email her at braveheartdogs@gmail.com or go to her website. You can reach her there as well. Do you have a blog?
Yeah, positive training for show dogs.blogspot.com.
Is it on your website?
It is on the website.
You're funny. You're funny.
I think it might actually be positive training for showdogs.com now too. I think I linked all that together.
Okay. But either way, they can find you at either one of those.
Yep, for sure.
All right. Well, thanks for attending. Thanks for being a guest.
Thanks for having me. I have a Facebook page too of Braveheart.
Okay. So they just search for Braveheart Dogs?
Yeah, Braveheart Dog Training.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody can reach me at theanimalbehaviorcenter.com, and our email, you can reach me directly, which I do answer every single email. Sometimes it takes me, it takes me a whole night to look through them, but you can reach me.
Good to see you, Daphne.
Yeah, good to see Daphne, and I may see Daphne here in a couple weeks. We were just messaging about it. I would love to meet her. But
nice.
Yeah. Vicki, love you. Thank
Love
you.
You too.
And I'm going to reach out to you in some of the things that we were talking about last night.
Okay, that sounds good.
About some future work.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right. Great. Thank you, everybody. And I'll see you next Sunday. Happy holidays to everybody. I'll see you next Sunday on another episode of Coffee with the Critters.
Bye. Thanks, Lara.
Yeah, hang on a second. I'll end the broadcast. I just want to say thank you. All right. See you next week, guys.